At this moment, US President Donald Trump has made a big statement after the SCO summit that's taken place in Tianjin. Trump has said India has now offered, he claims on Truth Social, to cut their tariffs to virtually nothing, but it's getting late. Trump says India should have cut their tariffs years ago. Trump has doubled down on Russian oil charge on India, saying again that Russia is buying most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the United States. Trump is saying what few people understand is that we do very little business with India, but they do a tremendous amount of business with us. Until now, this is a totally one-sided relationship, and it has been for many decades. So Donald Trump seemingly, some would say, getting more frustrated and more desperate. It coming, of course, particularly on a day when the Shanghai Cooperation Organization statement in China on Monday condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and cross-border terror. And it came on a day when you saw a real power league emerge with Prime Minister Modi, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, along with other leaders holding a series of bilateral and multilateral talks. Remember, the SCO declaration condemning terror also comes in the face of the fact that China has all along supported Pakistan, and even during Operation Sindoor was seen to be fully backing the Pakistan army. So is this alliance simply short-termism? India, China and Russia aim to somehow or the other stave the big bully off, that is the United States? Or are we seeing a real rejigging of relationships in a multipolar world? Can India really trust China? Can India play a major role in settling the conflict between Russia and Ukraine? Or is this only optics and not realism? That's the big question we'll raise. Take a look at our top story.
For 2 days, the world was following events unfolding in Tianjin, where the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit was on. The spotlight was on 3 individuals and the 2 key bilateral meetings Prime Minister Narendra Modi had. The one between him and Chinese President Xi Jinping in particular. On Prime Minister Modi's first visit to China in 7 years, New Delhi and Beijing reset their ties that were jolted by the 2020 Galwan clash.
हमारे सहयोग से दोनों देशों के 2.8 बिलियन लोगों के हित जुड़े हुए हैं। इससे पूरी मानवता के कल्याण का मार्ग भी प्रशस्त होगा।
It is vital to be friends, a good neighbor, and the dragon and the elephant to come together. This year marks the 75th anniversary of India-China diplomatic relations. Both nations need to handle our relationship from a strategic and long-term perspective.
The Ministry of External Affairs, in its briefing on Sunday, appeared optimistic yet cautious.
They both agreed that the two countries were primarily focused on their domestic development goals, and in this they were partners rather than rivals.
The boundary dispute remains the biggest challenge. While President Xi does not want to define overall relationship, Prime Minister Modi sees peace at the border as crucial for good ties.
In voicing certain principles related to this issue, the Prime Minister underlined the need for peace and tranquility on the border areas for continued and smooth development of bilateral relations.
Prime Minister Modi on Monday met Russian President Vladimir Putin. The bonhomie was hard to miss. This at a time the US has imposed 50% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. The Prime Minister travelled with Putin in the Russian leader's car from the SCO meet to the bilateral venue. The direct talks in the car lasted over 40 minutes, sources later revealed. Meanwhile, the 10-member SCO in its Tianjin declaration strongly condemned terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including the April 22nd Pahalgam attack. It also condemned terrorist attacks on Jafar Express and Kusdar. The declaration called for an end to cross-border terrorism. It also opposed unilateral coercive measures of economic nature, alluding to the US tariffs. Prime Minister Modi's presence at the SCO meet and his bonhomie with Chinese and Russian leaders sends out a strong message to the US. Faced with tariffs and trade threats, New Delhi is standing up to Washington. One could say the ball is now in Trump's court. With Gaurav Sawant in Tianjin, Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now is Einar Tangen, Senior China Policy Analyst based in Beijing. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Tangen. My first big question. At the SCO, we've seen a joint declaration that condemns terror, that speaks out against double standards in terror, has a collective voice on Pahalgam. And yet, the truth of the matter is, how does India square this up, Mr. Tangen, with the fact that China continues to support Pakistan, which by all accounts has been an epicenter for cross-border terror?
Well, it's an excellent point, but here's the issue. What is the SCO about? It's about fighting terrorism, extremism, and separatism. So, but you have to have a mechanism. It can't be just one country saying, oh, I know they did it. You need to prove to at least, not the international community, but at least the rest of the members of the SCO. And until they have a mechanism that people feel comfortable with, that can delve down and see if there was a state-sponsored actor involved, they have to be punished. But it's far more weighty when you have a whole group and when a state actor knows that if they engage in this kind of activity, they're going to be found out. And they're not only going to be found out by their, quote, enemy, which they don't care about, but they will be subject to peer review. Everyone will say, you're a pariah. And it could be the basis of kicking them out of the group. This is really the most effective way of dealing with a multipolar world. No one has, you don't have America and Europe using their colonial club and saying, we know better than you and we're going to tell you what to do and you're going to like it. That doesn't exist anymore.
But the fact, Mr. Tangen, is historically we've seen, let's stick to the facts. Historically, we've seen over the years, China has given its full support to Pakistan, even when it's been exposed continuously in global fora for promoting cross-border terrorism against India. China has vetoed resolutions in the United Nations to proscribe groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Even individuals like Masood Azhar have got away because of the Chinese veto. China was seen to have fused its military technology to aid Pakistan during Operation Sindoor. How do you then build any kind of trust mechanism when China doesn't implement what it says in reality?
Well, there is no mechanism at the moment. And the mechanism that was put in place, Sindoor, was based on the evidence that was provided to India by India itself. There were calls for an investigation. It was rejected. That's different, though, from your first point. The issue of terrorism, I think, has to be taken very seriously when these people are called out. I think there has to be a consensus. But I think it's far better for India to push for a consensus as a leader amongst the group and say, listen, there cannot be double standards here. Once somebody is called out. Now, why is China doing this? You and I both know. Pakistan is not in the greatest of shape economically, politically. All right. This is a country that seems to be always constantly teetering on the edge of some sort of collapse or revolution. Problem? They have nuclear weapons. And you don't know who would seize them. But I can tell you one thing, in a revolution, the people who generally win out are the most extreme. They're the most organized. They're the most ideological. And they're the ones who want those weapons and are prepared to use them because they don't have any, they feel they're absolutely 100% right. So there is always a concern, despite the quote friendship, that you do not want this country descending into chaos. And that goes for India too. Can you imagine?
But
You don't know who you're dealing with over there. At least right now it's the military. You have a kind of a measure on them. But imagine if you're dealing with some real wacko extremists who somehow worm their way into grabbing a bunch of nukes. It would be catastrophic for everybody, not just India and China, but the whole region.
But all the more important, Mr. Tangen, that when it comes to this relationship that Beijing has with Rawalpindi, as I said earlier, China seems to have fused its military technology, providing full aid to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, aimed at India. How do you then overcome a trust deficit with a country which was fully backing Islamabad only a few months ago? Why should we trust the Chinese at all?
Well, the feeling was that India did not abide by the rules by having an independent investigation and was bent on collapsing the country. I mean, what was the end game? Let's say India went in there and, and the military was so weakened and the people are so dissatisfied, you have an uprising. What good will come of that? That's my previous point. Do not push people over a precipice if you don't know what's on the bottom.
No, but Mr. Tangen, I think let's be honest. China has a relationship with Pakistan that is seen by India, not just by state, but by civil society here, as inimical to India's core interests. That China, therefore, has used over the years its special leverage with Islamabad in some way to target or weaken India, which comes to the question of the trust deficit. And one SCO handshake is not going to lead us to suddenly believe that we are partners and not rivals. Do you concede that or not?
Yes, but you're thinking, I mean, I see this a lot when I'm on Indian television. There's always this perspective from India's side. India is correct. Somebody should be doing something for India. India is the victim here. But this is a regional issue, right? That's what SCO is about. It's not about India and the rest of the world revolving around it. It is about all of these countries having the same issues with separatism, all right, extremism, and terrorism. And it's a question of how do you come together to fight that? Now, if China needs to be pushed, push them. But push them not by saying, okay, we're going to attack this country and possibly bring the government down, create chaos. And we don't know where it's going, but we don't care because we're mad. I mean, I understand. I mean, what happened there was terrible. But remember, I do not hear one word from India when busloads of people are intercepted by extremists in Balochistan. They're taken out, side of the road, the men are shot, and then there's leave. Where there has to be equal outrage.
Sir, let's not draw an equivalence and suggest both countries are victims of terror, or China is a victim of terror, so is Pakistan. India has for the last 30 years repeatedly faced cross-border terrorism. Evidence has been glaring like after 26/11, and yet China stood by Pakistan. I ask you therefore one last time, sir, this trust deficit question. I ask you because whether it is the boundary dispute, whether it's Arunachal, whether it's terror, India believes, and legitimately so, that China just doesn't want a relationship that is sustainable based on trust and good neighborliness.
So everything that just happened right now and Modi's, opticals, that was all false. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that your leader doesn't know he's walking into a trap, or he's somehow been duped by these big, powerful guys? I don't believe it. I really don't. You're trying to make this about what people are. There are other narratives out there. It is not just one narrative and one narrative alone. India's narrative is India's. Everyone else has a different one. So this idea that you can only consider India's and that you have to do something for India, it's not a winner. I mean, Let me finish, just if I may.
Yes.
This was an opportunity for India to lead. You know, Donald Trump is afraid of a combined BRICS because it dwarfs him. It makes him look small. It would be the bigger bully if it wanted to be. But it's a civilized grouping. They can go and they can tell Washington to do it. In the meantime, what is Washington trying to do? They're trying to divide everybody. Russia from China, China from India. I mean, you've seen it. You can't tell me you don't have suspicions about what the US was doing in terms of the general election, what happened in Bangladesh, the deal that they made with Pakistan, the 50% tariffs, these claims that, you know, Donald Trump is saying that he settled some war. Is that the mark of a friend? Is that the mark of trust?
So all the more important, Mr. Tangen, and this brings me to my final question, that whether it's our relationships bilaterally, whether it's at the SCO, whether it's at BRICS, there seems to be a short-termism on all sides because of now the fear of the US and a Trump-led administration playing the role of a big bully that wants its way all the time. And that's what's led all the countries to come together, not because they really have any mutual friendship that can last. It all seems very short-termism to me, and therefore, I wonder whether it will hold together.
And that has been a narrative that's been pushed by who? By the colonial powers that subjugated you. India was 24% of the world's GDP before the British came. After they left, it was 4%. Are you telling me that that was the world order that you prefer? Did they bring you civilization? What did they take? Everything. I mean, this idea that somehow, you know, the old order is dying. And you can choose two things. You can stick your head in the sand and say, I don't care. I'm going to do what's good for me. But that's a nihilistic approach. I mean, yes, you can say, oh, nations don't have friends or allies or enemies. They just have interests. Well, it sounds really good, pragmatic, but that comes right out of the playbook of Washington and the colonials. Just what's good for them at that moment. If you want a better world and you're not prepared to invest in it, it's not going to happen. So if, as a civilization, India believes from its past history and understands how short-sighted these kinds of ideas are and takes up the mantle of leadership. I mean, the reason I say India could be the leader is because India was the balancer. It is not against the US, and it's not going to give up its relationship with the US. It's too intertwined. But the US, in the form of Donald Trump, needs to be taught a lesson. And if they go to him and say, look, we don't care how much, you know, you can put whatever tariffs you want on your people. That's up to you. And then your people will decide at the next voting time whether they want you or not. But you cannot cynically play countries off against each other in the hope that they get less tariffs. This is right out of the colonial playbook.
Right.
You know, I don't know how else you could say. I mean, this is a cynical ploy to divide everybody against everybody. For whose advantage? Washington's, America's. Not the American people, the elites, people who are making money from this.
Let me leave it there, Mr. Tangen. I think it's you've given us a perspective from Beijing. Good to talk to you as always. You made some pretty strong points. Thank you very much for joining me here on the news today from Beijing.
I appreciate the strong questions. Only through strong questions can we have real dialogue and real thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, let's raise the big questions then. Can India and China really be partners and not rivals? You heard a perspective from Beijing there. Is the trust deficit too deep between India and China? Can China's alliance with Pakistan during Operation Sindoor be so easily forgotten? Is Trump tariff pressure the real reason for the India-China handshake? Will India, China and Russia now form a lasting troika? Joining me now, three very special guests, fine minds all. Brahma Chelani, leading strategic affairs expert. Kanwal Sibal, former foreign secretary, also served in Russia. KC Singh, former Secretary, MEA. Appreciate all of you joining us. Brahmachalani, to you first. You've been quite skeptical over the years of China in particular, believe that India needs to be very wary of China. How do you see what's happened in the last 24 hours? That India and China are suddenly talking about being partners and not rivals?
Well, we should look at the larger context. We should not forget that this is Modi's China Reset 3.0. His China Reset 1.0 began soon after he became Prime Minister in 2014, when he invited Xi Jinping to India as the first important foreign leader hosted by him. But Xi Jinping arrived in India with an unusual gift, a deep Chinese incursion into the Chamar sector of Ladakh. Reset 1.0 ultimately failed because of the 2017 Doklam standoff. When that standoff ended, it was seen as victory for India's resolve, but within weeks thereafter, China quietly occupied the Doklam Plateau. Today, Doklam is China's military stronghold, but the Chinese capture was obscured in India. Within a few months of the Doklam standoff, Modi initiated Reset 2.0 by reaching out to Xi Jinping. That led to the Wuhan summit and the summit in Mahabalipuram. But Reset 2.0 ended in disaster, with the Chinese military encroaching into key borderlands of eastern Ladakh in April 2020. That led to a series of border clashes and to a military standoff, which after more than 5 years has still not been fully resolved. Disengagement has happened, but not de-escalation or de-induction of forces from the frontier. Modi's Reset 3.0 began with the Kazan meeting with Xi Jinping last October and has been accelerated by Trump's economic war on India. But to launch Reset 3.0, India quietly dropped its demand that China restore status quo ante in eastern Ladakh. The MEA had said that status quo ante was a prerequisite to full normalization of bilateral relations. The army chief called status quo ante our first aim to achieve. But now, with little hope of getting China to roll back its encroachments, India is no longer seeking status quo ante. Instead, from the Prime Minister down, India is seeking, quote unquote, peace and tranquility along the LAC. Recent history offers a stark warning. An emboldened China could spring another nasty surprise on India before long. We have had a series of nasty surprises sprung on us.
So yours...
Oh. Yes, so,
I take your point. China has sprung a series of nasty surprises that therefore you believe, leaves you to believe that there can be no trust with a country like China. Kamal Sibal, take off from what you heard from Brahmachalani. There is a sense that this is pure short-termism. Because of the Trump tariffs, we are suddenly looking at China as a potential partner. Do you really believe that this is a sustainable basis for foreign policy? I mean, just a few months ago, we were accusing the Chinese of fusing their military technology with the Pakistanis, and it was based on hard evidence that defense experts were putting out.
Well, because of Trump's tariffs on India and the penalty tariffs, it appears as if Modi going to Tianjin is a response to that pressure. And the effort now is to establish a new kind of modus vivendi with China. I don't think this is quite correct, because when they two met in Kazan last year, Trump had not, there were no surprises like that on the tariffs front. It was, and then it's not only that. Before the two leaders met, the military fellows, God knows they met 20, 22 times. I've forgotten the figure. The other group, which has diplomats and military fellows, led by the foreign ministry, they met again scores of times. In between, the special representatives had also
Sir,
met.
but with due regard, Kazan was followed. Sir, with due regard, in the chronology, Kazan was followed by what happened during Operation Sindoor. I come back to it. Is there a short-termism? It may be the way diplomacy has to play out in a multipolar world. Let's be more honest about that. We have to look for tactical, strategic alliances.
I am coming to that the dynamics that we see between India and China is not related to what Trump has been doing. Now, with regard to Operation Sindoor and what have you, the fact is that we taught Pakistan a very bitter lesson. And now more and more evidence is coming out of the huge damage that was inflicted. And the Pakistani foreign minister has now admitted publicly that they are the ones who sought the ceasefire. And America had nothing to do with it. So all that tom-tomming about Chinese weaponry and all that you are mentioning about the giving access to them on Baidu and this and that. Yes, from our point of view, this is a serious provocation. And we must therefore very carefully assess the future, because Pakistan and China would now want to make up for the weaknesses in the defenses. And you can then see possibly much more military cooperation between China and India. But diplomacy cannot be such that you do not show some thinking and flexibility to manage very, very complex relationship. After all, we didn't even break our diplomatic relations with China after 1962.
No, I take your point.
Therefore, this is part of managing relations.
So I take your point about the need. Sir, what I call short-termism, you may call flexibility. KC Singh, respond to what you've heard just now from Kanwal Sibal. Do you believe that what we've seen here is a major breakthrough with Putin, Xi and Modi forming some kind of a troika, or is this pure short-termism at the moment?
I think it's tremendous amount of optics, which were important if you have to handle Trump. Trump's reaction has already come. On Truth Social, he has already stated that, India has proposed zero tariffs, which are all lies. But the signal which needed to be sent to Trump was that you are driving India into this corner. For the last 25 years, quarter century, one assumption has been that India was critical to US's balancing of China. That assumption has been overturned by Trump. Now, therefore, we are looking for a new recalibration. And in that recalibration, you will have to reach out to China, you will have to reach out to the others, because you can't be left in the middle ground. But you look at don't go to anything else, just look at the Tianjin Declaration. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the points in that is a condemnation of the US and Israeli attack on Iran. We've never joined that attack till now. We've never joined that condemnation. But this time to sign on to that declaration is again a signal to America that we are now rebalancing between you. We are going where India was after 47. I mean, the current government may treat Nehru as a discard, but that's essentially what we were. That's essentially what non-alignment was. So there's a new kind of realignment taking place in the world. You've got China on one side. China will never accept India as a rival which should be allowed to rise in Asia. It wants to be a dominant power in the world. It wants just US and them. And it realizes that India is coming on the rebound. And I'm sure India also knows it. When we are engaging China, we know it. We have a weak set of cards we've gone to China with. They are not stupid. The Chinese know it and we know it. So relationship with China, it's always good to remember, will be always a combination of cooperation. I don't call it partnership. Cooperation, competition, and friction. All three will have to coexist. You'll have to balance all of them. All this hugging and handshaking, these are cooperation, competition, and friction.
Cooperation, competition, and friction. Very interestingly put there, KC Singh. Brahmachalani, you want to dive in? Here are two senior diplomats saying this is in a way a recalibration, perhaps forced, but it is a recalibration. At the end of the day, in a multipolar world that we see, we have to be nimble and flexible, which is one of the words used.
Well, flexibility is important. And after all, we are seeing a world in great geopolitical flux. We are seeing geopolitical realignments happening along with fundamental changes in the economic order. And in that context, no relationship can be static. So in that sense, reaching out to China and seeking to mend ties with China is something to be welcomed. The issue is that whether are we being guided by wishful thinking? Because wishful thinking does not constitute a path to progress. Or are we seeking to re-engage China from a position of weakness? Did Modi go to China with a weakened hand? Because he went to China after the Trump tariffs and sanctions on India. He went soon after Operation Sindoor, where India's own deputy army chief said that China was the invisible third party in that India-Pakistan conflict. Those are the more substantive issues to be discussed because for India, the meeting was also about geopolitical signaling. The dependence on Washington is not India's only option. And in fact, Trump's economic war on India is accelerating India's effort to mend ties with Beijing. But Xi Jinping is turning Trump's alienation of India into an opportunity to make New Delhi agree to fully normalize Sino-Indian relations, largely on Beijing's terms. That is without progress on the core disputes over security, trade, and the border that bedevil the bilateral relationship. It speaks for itself, as I mentioned earlier, that India has dropped its demand for restoration of status quo ante in Eastern Ladakh. In other words, we have accepted Chinese occupation of areas that were being patrolled by Indians.
Can I therefore ask you, Kamal Sibal, a short answer? Have we gone into this with a weak hand? That the Chinese run the show and we simply have to just live by the fact that they will call the shots in this relationship? Or is this a relationship of equals in any sense?
I think one could make another argument that we went with a relatively strong hand. And I tell you why. We defied Trump. The only country defied, the European Union buckled down, South Korea buckled down, Japan buckled down. India stood firm. Number two, we gave a signal that we are not going to cease buying oil from Russia. We stood our ground on our relationship with Russia. This again was a show of self-confidence and strategic autonomy. These points cannot be ignored, even by Xi Jinping. And I think we are wise enough, we have experience enough to know that China cannot be trusted.
Right.
We have to manage a very difficult situation, which we'll do. But we have raised all our concerns. If you read between the lines of what the Prime Minister said in his bilateral talks with Xi Jinping, as well as his statement at the SCO, he's flagged all the issues of concern to us, to Xi himself. But Brahma is right. He didn't talk about status quo ante. I think
let me leave it. Let me leave it at that.
To discuss.
Okay. Let me leave it at that. Casey, you want a quick, I only have 20 seconds. You want a quick final word? What happens next?
No, what happens next is we'll have to see how Trump reacts. That statement is not overly aggressive. Is he fully aware of what went on there? Either he escalates the battle with India and goes to 50%, the rest of the trade, which he has exempted, or he starts becoming more flexible because he's coming under pressure for pushing India into this corner. And as Mr. Sibal said, it doesn't mean that we have bent over, because the Prime Minister did, when he was speaking, say that, no, I think we cannot, a settlement of the border is crucial to stability in bilateral relations. He continued to stick to that stand. So we'll have to, this will be diplomacy's challenge now.
Okay.
How to balance it. This is a new balancing game. And we need to see where it goes from here.
Let me leave it there. I appreciate all of you joining us. We live in uncertain times. You never know what tomorrow brings, especially with Donald Trump at the White House. But what we've seen today, purely in terms of optics, is extremely interesting because it shows just how flexible alliances have become across the world. Appreciate my guests joining me here on the news today. Let's move to our top domestic political story, and it comes from Bihar, where Rahul Gandhi's much publicized Vote Adhikar Yatra ended today in Patna with a grand rally of all the opposition leaders. Rahul Gandhi holding center stage there, and made a serious charge during that rally where he claimed that after having released an atom bomb of vote chori, this time he was going to bring a hydrogen bomb against the BJP that would leave Narendra Modi with no place to hide. Listen in.
बीजेपी के लोग अच्छी तरह सुन लीजिए भैया एटम बम का नाम सुना आपने सुना है एटम बम का नाम उससे बड़ा क्या होता है उससे बड़ा क्या होता है एटम बम से बड़ा हाइड्रोजन बम होता है नहीं होता है माधवपुरा में हमने एटम बम दिखाया था बीजेपी के लोगों तैयार हो जाओ हाइड्रोजन बम आ रहा है हाइड्रोजन बम आ रहा है तैयार हो जाइए आपकी जो सच्चाई है वोट चोरी की सच्चाई है वो पूरे देश को पता लगने जा रही है राइट बिहार की जनता बिहार के युवा बिहार के महिलाओं से मैं धन्यवाद करना चाहता हूं ये क्रांतिकारी प्रदेश है इसने पूरे देश को मैसेज दिया कि वोट चोरी नहीं होने देंगे और ये जो आपने बिहार में किया है हमारी जो मदद की ये पूरे देश में फैल गई है कोने कोने में फैल गई है
आज उन्होंने कहा मैंने एटम बम फोड़ा है अब मैं हाइड्रोजन बम फोड़ूंगा अभी तक तो दुनिया में हाइड्रोजन बम नहीं फटा है तो राहुल गांधी फोड़ने की बात कर रहे हैं अगर चुनाव के गणना को लेकर उनका कर्नाटक का एटम बम था तो फुस हो गया वो दिवाली का एक छोटा पटाखा भी नहीं निकला वो क्या हाइड्रोजन बम की बात कर रहे हैं
So what really has the Congress and the opposition gained from Rahul Gandhi's Vote Adhikar Yatra in Bihar? Joining me now is the chairperson of the Congress's Media and Publicity Committee, Pawan Kheda. Mr. Kheda, that direct question to you, what has the Congress really achieved at the end of the day? Critics are saying this was meant to be a Rahul Gandhi brand building exercise, an attempt by the Congress to try and get some traction in Bihar, a state where in the past you badly lost out in recent times.
Rajdeep, the so-called critics that you're talking about are the ones who are obsessed with brand. Mr. Modi's brand. I mean, we don't believe in branding and rebranding and what have you. What we've achieved in this yatra is that vote chor, gaddi chhod has become a buzzword, not just in Bihar, but in several states now. People have understood that this is the crux of the problem. I think what we've been able to successfully do is to communicate our message in every street, every village, almost every house of Bihar. And as a political party, I think we are well within our right to take care of the messaging. And that's what we have done through this yatra.
No, but how are you going to convert that into votes? It's one thing to say you claim you've got your communication right. In the past, we've seen there's no organization on the ground to convert your messaging into votes. At the end of the day, you want to win an election. In the past, in recent past, we've seen Congress in Bihar has frankly been a bit of a non-starter because of your lack of organization.
Rajdeep, all these are, I would say, bromides that people keep talking about using against the Congress party that, oh, you have no organization, you are never on the roads, your messaging is wrong. Once we improve our messaging, now you will say our organization is not there. Well, don't forget, Congress is there in Bihar, in every village of Bihar. We met several families who belong to the Congress, who are Congress supporters. All that we need to do is to organize them. And through this campaign, We have successfully mobilized a lot of those workers who were maybe silent all these years. They have come out. There is a lot of enthusiasm amongst our supporters and our workers, and a lot of new crop, young people, queuing up to join the Congress party, to support the Congress party. This is what we witnessed in Bihar, because the youth has understood that vote chori is just the beginning. It ultimately leads to governments which are absolutely not bothered about giving you employment, not bothered about your day-to-day problems, because they are confident they'll steal an election and come back to power. This people have understood.
Now, Mr. Khera, today Rahul Gandhi, though, said in his rally that he's dropped an atom bomb with his revelations on Karnataka, now will drop a hydrogen bomb. Now, all of this sounds very well. It will get you lots of reels on Instagram, social media traction. But what does it mean? What does it mean? What is this hydrogen bomb that he's actually talking about? Or is this, as again critics allege, hit and run politics, kuch bol do, and then allow the surround sound to take over?
What is, tell me, how is it hit and run when we expose Mahadevpura?
What is the hydrogen bomb?
After that, we follow it up to the last point. I'm coming to the hydrogen bomb. Just let's deal with the atom bomb first. So, the Mahadevpura was not just a hit and run politics. It was something which we are taking to a logical culmination. Well, over the last 2-3 years, we kept questioning the way elections were held, and Mahadevpura was the answer to the way elections were held. That was the atom bomb. Now everybody understands that 1 lakh votes, fake votes in one assembly segment, it's just a sample. Wait until we get Varanasi. Who knows? We can also get Varanasi. But this hydrogen bomb, well, wait and watch.
No, but to say, are you saying the hydrogen bomb is Varanasi? Because Rahul Gandhi claims the Prime Minister will not be able to see the country after this, that Congress is claiming Narendra Modi will be out of power in 6 months.
Let's see what it is.
Is this simply empty boast?
Let there be some surprise. No. You've seen Mahadevpura, you've seen vote chori, you've seen how we exposed SIR, you've seen how we paraded the so-called dead people having chai with Rahul Gandhi. You've seen all of it. So don't accuse us of indulging into hit-and-run politics. We are not doing that at all. And the Prime Minister knows it more than Rajdeep Sardesai, that we are not indulging into hit-and-run politics.
But the Election Commission, Mr. Khera, says that the Congress party or its supporters have not hardly filed any claims and objections. If the SIR exercise in Bihar is so fraudulent, if there's vote chori, go ahead, file specific claims and objections. They claim, in fact, the only opposition party in Bihar filing claims and objections to the electoral list is the CPI-ML, not the Congress, and very few of the RJD either.
Rajdeep, I must tell you this, and I think yesterday in my press conference also I said this, but I'll repeat it for you. The claims that they wanted us to submit through a format, in a proper format, through the BLA, were getting rejected by the Election Commission. They would refuse to accept those claims which were sent through the BLA. What was the option left to us? And why was the Election Commission doing this? No idea. Ask them. They are not supposed to say no to the complaints that were taken to them by the BLA. So the Congress had the only option left with us was to use our DCCs and give them 89 lakhs of complaints. It's not a small number. So ask the Election Commission, why were you refusing to accept things that were routed through the BLA? Just to show to the Supreme Court that Congress and RJD have not given any complaints? I'm sorry, that's cheating, that's bluff.
Can I come back to where I started, Mr. Khera? Was this Vote Adhikar rally about projecting Rahul Gandhi as the magnet, the leader of the opposition? Because Tejasvi Yadav and the RJD, by all accounts, surely are the main party of Bihar. The Congress is only a supporting ally. As yet, Rahul Gandhi has not even announced Tejasvi as the face or the chief ministerial candidate of the alliance. I want to understand, is the Congress going to take all opposition parties along with it and be ready to project the likes of Tejasvi as the chief ministerial candidate?
Well, absolutely. I mean, why should we even keep talking about issues that are done and dusted? I don't understand this. And Rahul Gandhi does not need branding at all. Bharat Jodo Yatra established his leadership across the country as the chief voice of opposition in the country. He is the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. Can you snatch that from him?
But I still ask you, therefore, are you saying the Vote Adhikar Yatra will actually transform Congress's fortunes in this election in Bihar? Or is this simply a pilot project that you've launched to see what impact it has?
No, the pilot project at all. Vote Adhikar Yatra started in Bihar, but is spreading like wildfire across the country. You've seen visuals coming from Madhya Pradesh, you've seen visuals coming from Maharashtra, you've seen visuals coming from Rajasthan, from across the country. Rajasthan, you don't even have an election until 3 years later. Yet people are out there on the roads raising the same slogan. This slogan has become a people's slogan. Vote chod, Gandhi chod.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there, Pawan Khera. You're claiming that this is a people's slogan and this is an atom bomb which you dropped, which is going to be followed by a hydrogen bomb. We'll wait and see how that analogy actually plays out.
And
but
wait
for joining
the hydrogen
me here
bomb.
on the news today on a day when your Vote Adhikar Yatra ended. Okay, we'll wait for the hydrogen bomb and see whether it's a fuss bomb or it actually explodes politically. Yes. Thank you very much for joining me on the show tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Under its worst floods in decades, more than 1,000 villages have been inundated. At least 30 people have died. Rivers Ravi, Bias and Satluj are all flowing over the danger mark. And there are desperate calls of help to try and retrieve the situation. Take a look at tonight's ground report from Asim Bassi in Punjab.
Satluj, Bias and Ravi rages across Punjab, inundating nearly 3 lakh acres of farmland, hitting around 1.25 lakhs of people in the state and killing at least 29 people.
Right here, this is Samrala Chowk in Ludhiana, and just close to this is where what you see is a massive water logging. This is leading to flooding in cities. This is really at a point of time which could result in havoc. Now, a lot of people wading through waters, key concern, but clearly what we've seen in massive cities, Jalandhar, Ludhiana, all looking at major waterlogging because of the incessant rains.
In Jalandhar city, water entered residential colonies. Citizens claim they had approached the administration days ago, but no action was taken to clear the drains.
Look at the sort of water which has gone in. This is the living room, then this is the dining room, and this is where the water is gushed in. And clearly, this is something which could be very heartbreaking for any person who belongs here, and there's no electricity. Look at this.
ये हमने पर्सनल बुलवाए हैं पानी निकलवाने के लिए, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से कोई हमें हेल्प नहीं है. पूरी लेन में कोई हेल्प नहीं है हमें किसी तरह की.
Why is Punjab being inundated, and can the accountability be really set as to who is really responsible for this kind of flooding mess?
Gurdaspur, Moga, Fazilka, Firozpur, Pathankot and Tarantaran are the worst affected in Punjab. Indian Army along with the NDRF and civil administration have been deployed for relief and rescue operations.
We are at Firozpur, Indo-Pak border, and you can see right behind me is the fencing at 50 to 100 meters, and we won't disclose the post which is, but you can see the water flowing this side as well and that side as well, because this is a Satluj river in Firozpur that flows along the borderline along the fencing, and to that side of the fencing you can see the water that has hit, the flood that has hit, and this side also you can see the fields, the crops, how it's been damaged, and 11 villages here that on the borderline are majorly affected. And this area, Firozpur, there are total 100 villages that are affected, and people here were evacuated, were rescued from their homes. Still, the water level is at where it was, and still people are under threat that in coming days water level can increase if the water being released from the dams.
The flood caused by incessant rain and swollen rivers have led to huge financial losses due to crop damage and livestock loss in Punjab. Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann has constituted a high-powered committee for relief work and has sought 60,000 crore rupees from the centre as relief funds. With Kamaljeet Sandhu and Aman Bharadwaj, Bureau Report, India Today.
Kamaljeet Sandhu, Aman Bharadwaj reporting our thoughts and prayers with the people of Punjab. I want to leave you though with our image of the day, and it comes from Mumbai, a city which is under siege, not because of Ganesh Chaturthi processions, but because of the Maratha reservation agitation that has reached the doors of Mantralaya in Mumbai. Large parts of Mumbai have been blocked by the Maratha reservation agitationists, forcing the High Court now to step in and demand that these agitationists be removed from the street and they clean up the city by 12 noon tomorrow. We leave you with those images of a city, as I said, which finds itself under siege, roads blocked, traffic blocked, as the Maratha agitationists take to the streets of Mumbai. That's our image of the day. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night. Shubhratri. Jai Hind. Namaskar.